Welcome to the String Theory of the Unexplained. I'm your host, John Ventre, and our co-host is Fred Saluga. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about Native American superstitions. Welcome to the show. Well, Fred, you know, we've never done an episode that talked about Indians, Native Americans, and some of their beliefs. And I've always thought it was an interesting topic. You know, I know one time MUFON had a Native American speaker at one of the symposiums a few years ago, and there's a couple others that are out west, but they're very tight-lipped about their culture, and they don't share it with others. So I said, let me put something together on Native American beliefs and superstitions, and so here's the presentation I put together. So, you know, my question is really, are Native American and pagan beliefs, are they a form of witchcraft? You know, at the bottom line, the worshiping, the chanting, you know, the different spirits, is it the same as practicing witchcraft? So we'll get into that, we'll take a look at it, but, you know, in looking at this, there are 300 different Native American tribes or cultures, you know? And it was really the earliest form of American literature with their songs and chants and poems and rituals that they had done here in North America. They have a creation myth that explains, you know, how we got here, and they have myths that are natural and supernatural phenomena. But everything they do is a cause and effect relationship. Right. That's, if you do this, this happens, is a cause and effect to everything that people do. So, you know, first on a very positive note is, you know, we had the wind talkers, the Navajo Indians.
That was World War II.
Yeah, World War II. And, you know, they basically were code breakers that could break the Japanese code, and Japanese could not break the Navajo code.
Right.
So they were World War II heroes. And I'll tell you something funny. In 2002, I'm with my kids at Lake Powell, right? That's on the border of Arizona and Utah. And it was a really nice vacation. We rented a boat. We were staying in this town there. So, you know, our vacations are, you know, if it was up to me, it would be we would play sports, like up in the Poconos and stuff.
Right.
So, you know, the kids and I, in the daytime, or when there was free time or bad weather, we went to the gym, we were playing racquetball, we were having a good time. So one night, we go to a movie at the local old theater there in town, and about half the people in the theater are American Indians, you know? So we went to watch The Wind Talkers, that movie in 2002 with Nicolas Cage.
Right.
It was this actual story of World War II. What was so cool was that at one point, one of the people right behind me said, that movie was filmed here in this town.
What?
Oh, how cool was that? We go to a movie and it was filmed in that town. So that was really cool. But you know, the Native Americans, they had, you know, their language, and some of them couldn't be broken. So I started looking up, okay, what tribes do I want to look at? Who had the most legends, you know? So it turns out that of those 300, you know, different cultures or tribes, the Blackfoot had the most legends. They had 63. The Apache had 31, and the Algonquin had 24. And this is kind of a map of North America, and it shows you where some of their tribal, you know, their names were. You know, even Cuba, they had the Taino Indians were in Cuba. So everything with Native American repeats. It's like their medicine wheel. It's circular. You come back. Things repeat. The things you do come back at you. You know, they have you know, like the medicine wheel. The air is mental. The earth is physical. Fire is spiritual, and water is emotional.
Right.
That's you know, how they do it. So let's talk about some of the different tribes and some of their beliefs. And this is something early on with me, when I was writing my book. I looked at the Hopi Indians. They go back to about 500 BC. And they would do what they called the KACHINA dance. You know, it would be a dance, and they would dress up. They felt that they could make it rain, they could control nature, and they could also, through their dances, they could send messengers to the spirit world.
Right.
And the Hopis had end-time prophecy. That was one of the ones that I looked at, you know, when I was writing my book. And they said that a blue star will strike Earth. and that the sacred ones would arrive on flying shields. Flying shields, right?
UFOs.
So, yeah. So they predicted that, and these are predictions that came true. They predicted that we would speak through spider webs, which meant phone lines.
Right.
They didn't know how to describe them. These are the things that they were told. We would ride in horseless carriages,
Right.
cars, right? And that women would wear men's clothing. I mean, they said that long time ago, and that all came true, you know? But then you have the Mayan prophecy, another culture I looked at to
Right,
write my
right.
book, my first book, and they go back to about 300 BC, the Mayans. And very interesting, their calendar that they created accounted for the Earth's wobble. The Earth, you know, when it spins, it wobbles a little,
Mhm.
and it moves 1 degree every 72 years. So the calendar was made that it accounted for the whole cycle of the Earth's wobble, and on December 21st, 2012, it started over again. That's all the calendar was about. Had nothing to do with end time prophecy, end of the world, nothing. It only completed the cycle that would start again. You know, but how do you create a calendar 1,500 years ago? How could you possibly look at the sky and know that it's 1 degree every 72 years?
If they were really from here.
Yeah, well, they were told this is what the
Right,
deal was.
right.
I don't know how you would figure that out. So their king, King Pakal, he was said to be like 7, 8 feet tall, you know? And on his casket, you have this famous cover to his casket, and it shows him, I mean, kind of riding on a Harley or something. He's riding on something with a jet engine on the back. It's got a front hood and a little device that you can breathe through and
Right.
controls. That's the cover of his casket. I mean, it looks like a spacecraft, like a
Right,
hovercraft or
right,
something
right.
that he could be riding on. You know, very, very interesting stuff. They have a sacred text called the Popol Vuh. And in that, and here's a book where they said that people from the sky, ETs,
Right.
came down and created us.
Right.
Okay? And they're the one god that they have, Kukulkan, their legend is that he basically just walked out of the ocean, just came walking out onto the shore. He was a white male with blonde hair, blue eyes. He had an elongated skull, but he had blonde hair, and he gave them all this knowledge. So basically, he was that Nordic or tall white type of extraterrestrial, and he said that he would be back in 500 years. So this had to be about 1000 AD. And what happened in 500 years, because this was their legend, their prophecy, Cortez showed up.
Right.
And they thought Cortez was his return. And that led to the downfall of their civilization. You know, but all of that was the reason I wrote this book. This is my first book, Fred.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, you're familiar
Yeah,
with it. I'm
yeah,
sure you got a
yeah.
copy of it. But because I was researching this stuff about, and I saw sky people, star people, people on flying shields was how the Romans described them,
Right.
you know. I wrote the book, and that's what got me involved with MUFON, because I started writing it in '96. I joined MUFON in 1998. I knew nothing about UFOs. Well, some people might say I still don't. But I knew nothing about UFOs, and it was really from writing a sci-fi novel that I got involved on this. And I do want to say, in this book, Fred, I was one of the first people who talked about the Yellowstone supervolcano.
Right.
And if you remember the lectures I gave
Yeah.
on end time prophecy, people were not talking about that. As a matter of fact, when I published this book on Amazon, there were 5 other 2012 books.
Right.
When I
Yeah.
published this was book number 6,
Six.
right? By the time 2012 arrived, there were over 200 2012 books.
Right.
But I was one of the first to talk about the Yellowstone supervolcano, and 4 of the radio shows I did, 2 of them, the signal went off when I was talking about Yellowstone. 2 others, the signal got taken down, didn't go off the air. And one, and it was about a year ago, there was a helicopter hovering over the house. And you could hear it on the radio show as I'm talking about Yellowstone. The other thing I bring up in this book is the Apophis asteroid.
Why'd they take it off there?
If you look at Yellowstone, it was a special the other
Right,
night.
right.
I watched it, I think it was last night.
Yeah.
They believed in '06, the ground was swelling up.
Right,
Lakes were moving.
right.
They were having all these tremors. They thought Yellowstone was going to blow. So when Obama came into office in '08, one of the first things he did was they purchased 1.4 billion hollow tip bullets.
Mhm.
They created internment camps all around the country and purchased caskets. And they would not tell you why they did that.
Mhm.
They thought Yellowstone was going to blow.
Yeah.
And if Yellowstone blows, this is, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Like, it's stupid. Like the North Koreans said, oh, they're going to target Yellowstone with a nuclear weapon to blow it up and destroy the United States. What they don't understand,
Destroy themselves.
yes, because it turns to acid rain all around the planet. And it's been predicted the population of Earth would drop from 7 billion to probably 1 billion people. 6 out of 7 people would die from a Yellowstone eruption. And it's mostly the acid rain
Right.
that would do that. You can't grow anything. It kills nearly everything in the ocean and all your crops.
Well, we're still having a lot of problems with Yellowstone.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Yellowstone, more than an asteroid, and I wrote that book, Apophis 2029, Yellowstone is the one that people have to be worried about, and it acts up every now and then.
Right.
Just a couple of years ago, the road was melting, the blacktop was melting.
And all the animals were running out.
And the animals, I'm telling you, the animals, when you see them leaving,
Yeah, you know something's coming.
you
down.
know something's going on. But but that's how I got started in this whole thing, was really these Indian, Mayan, Hopi prophecies to write this book.
Right.
And that's how I got started, So let's talk about Bigfoot now, which is your area. And all I want to say about Bigfoot is what I was able to find was that they say Bigfoot can materialize and dematerialize. They call him Sasquatch. He's about the size of an Alaskan brown bear,
Right.
9 to 11 feet tall. He mates with women. He takes.
Well, yeah, a lot of the women back then, they would actually go with Bigfoot because they knew they could get food, they knew they could get shelter.
So Bigfoot, with the Indians, Bigfoot would cooperate and trade with the Indians.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah, but occasionally they would just grab one of the women and run off.
Well, he was a spiritual advisor to them.
Yeah.
Many times when they got a picture of a UFO coming down, and they would call them the crazy bears. They would let them out. And they actually have pictures of like one in a cave. He was a spiritual advisor, and he told them he was dying, that he wanted them to take him to the lake and put him on a raft so that they could come and get him. Well, they put him on the raft like he said, and they pushed the raft out, and they're hiding in the weeds watching. And all of a sudden a craft come over, which they call the moon, came down, a light came down out of it and pulled him up into the craft. And then a lot of times too, he helped them come out of the woods, like if they would get lost, Bigfoot. But then on the same token, you had the bad Bigfoot that would kill them
Yeah.
and eat them.
Yeah. So, I mean, Bigfoot seemed to cooperate with the Native Americans. Was it when the white hunters showed up and started
Right.
trying to kill them and kill the buffalo and kill the Indians? Is that
And
when
kill everything.
Bigfoot basically said, "Nope, we can't have anything to do with these guys"?
But again, if you look at it, I think the Bigfoot back then and the Bigfoot now is two totally different species.
What does that mean?
Bigfoot then, I think probably was animal. I think since then, in my own theory, they're interdimensional. I think they came down, the moon came down again and actually made them, because they don't want to talk to people now. They don't want around humans. They don't want nothing to do with humans. So something changed them in between there.
Or there's more than one. There's a Bigfoot that's a primate animal, there's a Bigfoot that's interdimensional, and
Right.
maybe there's one that's on a UFO or comes through a dimension.
Well, I think the interdimensional, I think the majority of them are interdimensional today. I think there may be some old Bigfoot, but I don't think there's that many.
So you think even around here
Right,
in this
yeah.
area, the Laurel Highlands, this
I
is,
think they're interdimensional.
it's well, they never find a body.
Well,
No
again-
hunter shoots them.
Again, the Indians had a thing where they said that Bigfoot was a shapeshifter. And that could be another reason. I was reading this the other day, which was really interesting.
Oh,
Say,
I
for
see.
example, he gets killed. Someone shoots him, he turns into a bear.
Or if you're hunting him and running after him,
Yeah.
you turn the corner of the tree, anything,
Yeah.
you see a wolf, and you talk, where's
Yeah.
the big? You keep going, but he turned into the
He
wolf,
turned
and
into
he's
a wolf.
trotting, or
Yeah, yeah.
he's trotting away at that
Right.
point.
And that's one of the major things right now. Why can't you kill him?
Yeah.
A lot of people, if you get into the Bigfoot research, they say 5 Bigfoot die each year. They kill them. but show me the bones.
But nobody's ever been able.
Nobody's ever. So if you don't have the bones, you're not killing Bigfoot.
So, like, show me the size. They say he's 9 to 11 feet tall, which pretty much puts it to the ceiling.
Right.
You know, do you have a cast or something of a
Well,
foot?
Here's a cast right here from the state of Washington, made by a police officer. The Bigfoot was out there, and this is what they found when he was there. Now you look at this cast here; that's a damn big cast. So, but again.
That's gigantic for a
Yeah,
footprint.
for a footprint,
I mean,
yeah.
that's bigger than, like, I remember Bob Lambier used to have, like, I think a size 16 or 18 sneaker when he played basketball. That
I
thing
could
is
get
gigantic.
both. I could get both of my feet on.
Yeah, and only go half the length. I mean, but you look at it, like, look at this chart. Look at Sasquatch,
Yeah.
the brown bear. Look at a human. We're
Right.
actually
Yeah.
taller than gorillas are.
Right.
That thing is massive. It's got to be 800 pounds, 1,000 pounds, you know?
But see, when you talk to the Native Americans about Bigfoot, they don't want to talk to you about him either.
No, they don't trust us.
no,
they don't trust us.
I know one guy's an old dude. He still talks like that. He said, "No talk to you about Bigfoot." He said, "White men want to kill Bigfoot,"
Well,
and that's their thing.
and
We
it's a
kill
shame.
everything we have.
Because I wonder, like, why do they want to kill Bigfoot? You know, why would, if I saw Bigfoot, I wouldn't want to try to, I wouldn't shoot him. I don't want to kill him.
Well,
I'd
I
like a
think,
little piece of fur to try to prove in the lab, you
I
know?
think that a lot of people want to put his head on the.
Yeah, well, that's.
I mean, you know, you got the people. A lot of people don't hunt to hunt. I mean, they hunt to kill. They don't hunt to eat.
Yeah,
And I think that's the same with him. They want to put him up there. Oh, I got a Bigfoot in my house. You know?
yeah. Hey, you want any more, Jack?
No, I'm good. I'm
You
good.
okay?
Thank
You
you.
okay with yours?
Yeah, I'll take a
Okay.
drink right now.
I prefer the Crown Royal.
Mhm.
Crown Royal and Coke. That's mine. You know.
That's some strong stuff right there.
Yeah, well, it's like I make my coffee real strong now too. I don't go cheap on the coffee. I guess from being in Europe, it's so damn strong in Europe that's how it's. Okay, so well, then they also have legends of little people, and this is a Cherokee legend when they talk about the little people, and they're basically spirits like fairies.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we was talking about this yesterday. So you go out in the woods. Okay, Bigfoot was supposed to have been a woodsman, the spirit of the woods. Your fairies are, what do you call them, elementals out in the woods.
Yeah.
So is Bigfoot and these things, they all related?
Oh, I think they are. I think without a doubt.
You know, and my thing is aliens, Bigfoot, and ghosts. And that would include that stuff there. They're all from the same tree, but a different branch.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't understand that.
Yeah.
The little people know more about Bigfoot than the Indians probably.
Well, and you make a good point. I don't say ghosts. You
No.
said elementals.
Right.
These are all elementals because they were never
Right.
human.
Right.
Ghosts were human at one time. But you're right about that. And I just went to Dublin. I went all over Ireland
Right.
a couple of months ago.
Mm.
And all the stores, they talk about the fairies, the
Yeah.
elves, the leprechauns. It's the same stuff.
Right.
It's the same stuff on a different continent, yet they never talked
Right.
until 1600, or 1500, let's say.
But they're there. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we got a psychic that goes out with us every now and then when we're out hunting. And she'll say something like, well, there's what's the thing that used to be the horse that had the human,
Unicorn?
no, unicorn.
Oh, I know. It's the human body with the horse.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you
She
call
would say,
those. Yeah.
there's one over there.
Yeah.
And I'd start laughing, like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the tree where that thing's at, you hear a noise over there like something was there. So I told you something was there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, in their legends, the Cherokee, there's 3 types of little people, and one type is vindictive, it gets even with you. The other type will help you, and then there's one that's just mischievous and likes to play tricks, like ghosts.
Right.
Very similar to what ghosts do, They have dream catchers, which is, prominent. I mean, I lived in Oklahoma, and, everybody had dream catchers. I have it in my room over there. My TV room is Indian and animal stuff. But in there, they would put it in the bedroom. My daughter had a dream catcher for years.
Yeah.
And what it says is it keeps out the bad dreams and lets in good ones. They all have a medicine man. And the medicine man can be spiritual or he can be herbal, but he will not discuss his practices with you.
Right.
Like they will not talk to you and tell you what they do. He has supernatural powers that can ward off evil spirits. So they have a particular chant, etc., and they ward it off.
But how do they get supernatural powers?
They're
Again,
calling upon these spirits. You know, how is that different than a voodoo priest or priestess, you know?
right.
I mean, I see a big overlap with witchcraft, I really do. And I don't think it was intentional by
No,
Native Americans.
I don't think that I don't look at it really as, well, okay, say you're a pagan, okay, I don't know if you're gonna get into pagans here.
Yeah, you bring them.
Pagans, okay, if you're, a lot of pagans are, you got three different types of magic. You have white magic, gray magic, and black magic. A lot of your pagans are into white magic, okay? They believe that if you do harm to somebody, it'll come back threefold on you. I think it's the same with them. I think you have some that are white, gray, and black. Or gray can turn into black. Anything can turn into black in a hurry. Like say, for example, you wish for $5,000. You're practicing white witchcraft. If you're not protected, that's another major thing with that. You have to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Okay? So the next day your mother dies and you get $5,000. It went from white magic to black magic overnight.
Right.
So I think it's the same thing with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to go to Gettysburg in a couple of months with this group, and they're doing a ghost hunt. And I said, you know what, based on what happened here, I don't want to be on a ghost hunt. And she goes, well, we could put a protection spell on
Right,
you.
right.
But, you know, I've read, like, from the Catholic Church, that's all pagan stuff, and not to do any of that, not to burn the, you know, the stuff, not to do a protection spell. Your protection is Jesus Christ. That's
Right.
what the Catholic faith says.
That's what, but then again, John, I mean, I'm a Catholic myself too. But I mean, is it possible that there's something out there that may even be a little bit more powerful? I mean, Jesus Christ, what was he? I mean,
Well, I don't think anything's more powerful than Jesus Christ, but I think
what
when
was
you,
he?
he
I
was
mean-
the Son of God.
I mean, so when he went up, what did he go up in?
He
I
went
mean,
to heaven. He
yeah,
became
you know what?
spiritual.
I mean, there was a cloud up there that lifted him, right? So what was that cloud?
His spirit went.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, when you reach out to this, you don't know who you're contacting.
Right.
There could be angels, and there could be demons. There could be relatives. That's the thing. You can't see it. You don't know what you're reaching out to.
Well, you know, we do a lot of EVP,
Mm-hmm.
electronic voice phenomena. And again, we can talk to somebody that's been dead for 50 years, but are we really talking to them?
You don't know.
But they know what happened then.
Because they're right here and that.
Yeah.
They either are observing you and almost attached to you, or they got this hive mentality, like into a computer type thing of they know everything that everybody's
Right,
done,
right.
you know, or they can read your mind.
I think once you die, you go into like a universal consciousness, and you're there. Again, you know, when we die, is there a soul and a spirit? Is there two different things here? How long do you stay dead?
Well, you got
Would
your soul and you
reincarnate?
got your grace, which I
Yeah.
don't really understand that
Yeah.
whole thing, but yeah.
You
But
see what I'm saying?
yeah. All right, let's talk about skinwalkers. This was a big deal with them also, was the skinwalkers. And so I'm going to read this. In some Native American cultures, they hold a legend of people that have the ability to transform into animals by wearing a pelt of that animal. Now, in the Navajo, and a lot of this is Navajo,
Yeah.
in their culture, they have shapeshifters that are witches. See witchcraft?
Yeah.
They have witches. They call them Ye Naudloshi, who have killed a member of their family or committed some cultural taboo. That's how you become a shapeshifter. They're very feared within the culture. Their folk tales talk about skinwalkers, and during the long walk when they were being, you know, white men were taking
Right.
them through Oklahoma to their reservation, a lot of them turned into skinwalkers and left as animals and other creatures. The only way to kill the skinwalker is to dip a bullet in white ash and shoot him. So I guess before we showed up, they must dip an arrow in white ash and shoot them, because they had bullets till we brought them, you know? But, you know, there's a picture of how they depict them, a witch that turns into an animal, but you have to really commit a mortal sin to become a skinwalker, you know? And, you know, then you had this book, which, you know, I bought Hunt for the Skinwalker,
Right, right.
you know? And I didn't get George Knapp was at our symposium.
Right.
I didn't get him to sign it. I forgot to bring
Yeah,
it with
yeah.
me, you know? But you have this that's in Utah on the ranch, and, you know, Colm Kelleher and George Knapp write this book. It's about the Skinwalker Ranch, The opening paragraph or page to that book, Fred, is one of the best I've ever read. They come home on their pickup truck. They got their, you know, their ranch. There's calves, you know, behind the wooden bars. They look. They see a wolf, huge wolf, trotting towards them. They grab their guns, their rifles. You know, it was a family. The wolf is 6 feet at the shoulders. So my height on its fours. It walks up, you know, they got the 357. It walks up, it goes over to where the calf is, puts its head in, grabs it, they open fire. Boom, 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 boom. It lets the calf go. It just looks at him, trots off. They didn't kill it. They opened up.
Yeah.
That is one of the greatest opening scenes to a movie that you could possibly have.
But that's the same thing happens with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
They have the case down in Fayette County where the ship landed, and then the two boys came down and he fired 2 rounds of 30-06 overhead and then fired into it. Just more or less looked at it and said, "Go to hell," turned around and walked away.
Yeah, so
I mean, like, you know.
they're not flesh and blood. They're not flesh
I
and blood.
agree with you.
And who owns the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah?
Bigelow.
Robert Bigelow.
Right.
He is in the middle of all of this stuff. He's in the middle of the UFO stuff. He was funding MUFON's investigations.
Right.
Then after he had NIDS, remember? The science, NIDS was his group,
Right,
NIDS.
right. Well, that's who did the Skinwalker
Yeah,
Ranch.
and he had his scientists there.
Yeah.
He's in the middle of this stuff, even what just recently came out, where he said he's pretty sure there's an alien presence on this planet.
Well, the pictures that the Pentagon had,
Yeah.
that was him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it didn't work out with MUFON, he got the FAA to direct UFO reports to his group.
Right.
I'm telling you, if we knew the story on Bigelow, I met him. He was in Vegas about 5-6 years ago. He came to the benefactors cocktail hour that I go to as a major donor. And him and I stood with our drinks. We talked for about a half hour about colonizing Mars.
Right.
That's what we talked about, and he says he believes that can be done.
Well, yeah.
You know?
If they ain't done it already.
If they haven't already been there. But Bigelow is, I'm telling you, somebody needs to do a movie on Bigelow.
Yeah, well.
If he'll allow it, you know?
Maybe you'll meet a bad end.
Well, that could be. But he was the guy, probably gave a donation to Harry Reid. Harry Reid then got the $22 million in funding to look at UFOs from 07 until 12.
Right.
While he was working with MUFON, he was getting funding from Harry Reid from the Department of Defense to look at UFOs, and he's working with MUFON.
May still be.
He had it all covered, I'm telling you. The guy had it
May still be.
all covered. Well, another one is with Native Americans. You remember the Howling?
Right.
You ever see the Howling movie?
Yeah.
What a cool movie. I really liked that movie. But that was a colony of werewolves that were based in San Diego. You know, and you know, it's a native, totally, well, she was a shapeshifter. Remember the girl that she bit the husband, but she turned into a werewolf when she bit him. She was a shapeshifter.
Well, they're saying now your dog man is actually a werewolf.
Well, that's, I didn't know what you meant by dog man when you said dog man. I didn't know what you're talking about. The werewolf legends are mainly Mohawk Indians out of New York State, upstate New York. Even though the movie was set in California, the werewolf legends are really from this area and upstate New York. They also got the legend of the Wendigo. And this is an evil creature, again, about the height of a Bigfoot, about twice the size of a human. It eats people, it devours them, but the Wendigo was at one time a man. But it's hundreds of years old, and again, it had to have done something very bad, and it turns into this creature, which kind of looks like a Bigfoot with some fur on its back, but it has the horns of a deer.
Right.
You know, but again, you start looking at how occult is some of these beliefs and these creatures that they come up with. I think it's very fascinating, and nobody's really done a good movie, or maybe there are some books out there on Native American legends. You know, they got the legend of the Two-Face. That's a lot of people we know. Hey, Fred, have a drink. Come on, to Two-Face. All right. Two-Face is a Sioux, Omaha, Lakota Indian legend.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, you know, I guess there was a movie because I was able to find this online. They did a movie, Two-Face, and the creature, its elbows are like razors, and that's how it kills you. It'll hit you with the elbows and slice you open with its elbows. One face is like a pretty female, the other face is this deformed corpse, you know. So it's two-faced, but it's got razor-sharp elbows. They got some great tales. I'm telling you, somebody needs to make movies out of some of their legends, you know. They have the legend, Cherokee legend of the horned water serpent, and to kill it you have to remove it the 7th scale. It kind of looks like an anaconda to me,
Right.
which is probably what they were seeing was the giant snake, you know. But that's how you kill the thing. You had, the Mayans had a legend of the death bat. It was a human head on a bat body, and that's the carving of one. But then I found a Mexican, you know, magazine, comic book called Camazotes. And what it was, it's a Mexican Batman. Look, that's a Mexican Batman. That's what it was, you know. So I wonder who came first. Was it, you know, was that DC Comics, I think, the Batman, or was it Camazotes out of Mexico City? I don't know. This is a cool legend. They got the legend of the stiff-legged bear. Now some people say, oh, that's just a mastodon that they found, a giant woolly mammoth, you know. But it's supposed to be about a bear at the shoulders that stands on all fours about 15 feet high. And it would kill people, eat people. It ran 30 miles an hour. It was the size of an elephant that ran 30 miles an hour, but it was a bear. And this was up in the Pacific Northwest. And when I had first heard about this years ago was that they said because these bears were real and lived up there, you know, it kept the people from coming across the Bering Straits and coming into North America. Because this bear, they'd come across, the bear would just eat them. You couldn't get past the bear, or I guess you could sneak past, etc. But then that's how the people came to North America, was across the Bering Straits. So if you look at that, you look at the people, and you look at the size of this bear. I mean, this thing, if it stood up on all fours, would be taller than my house, about the height of my house, you know? I mean, just it's almost like half the size of King Kong was the size of this, because King Kong was 50 feet, you know? If this thing stood up, it would be about 30 feet. Interesting legend, you know? Then, yeah, the Iroquois Indians had the legend of the flying heads. Now, how occult looking is that? It's a head, it's a skeleton head with bat wings that would fly, you know? I mean, that's the legend that they have. The Yakama had the legend of the owl women. They were cannibal women that lived in caves, but they had an owl face and they kind of had clawed hands, you know, like that, like the talons of the owl. That was another legend. I'm telling you, they got some creepy characters, creatures, you know.
So if they were all for real, we'd be in some hell of a trouble.
Well, if you're a shapeshifter, you can make yourself be whatever you want to be. Then there's the Thunderbirds. You see them on totem poles. This is an old Civil War picture of what looks like a pterodactyl. But they claim the Thunderbirds have always been down in Mexico, Central America, and in the United States. Let's talk about their burial rituals a little bit now. The Plains Indians in the Northwest, they buried their dead above ground. Along the Mississippi and most of the Northeast, they built mounds. Like in Ohio, you have mounds that they would bury, probably because Mississippi overflowed. But I would think they would bury them above ground, but they didn't.
We got mounds here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they built mounds to put the dead in. But then in the Southwest and the Southeast, they cremated the bodies, which I never knew that. They would burn the bodies, you know, in the Southwest. And it was always part of their culture, you do not disturb a burial ground.
Right.
You do not disturb a burial ground. Here's another cool one, the zombie Indian. You know how you got the Walking Dead and all of that? Somebody needs to come out with the zombie Indian. So what this one is, this is an Indian hunter, and how you activate it is on the arrow tip. You have to prick your finger so the blood activates this zombie Indian, and he's got these ghost crows. I mean, this is about as good as it gets, you know.
But, you know, getting back to the graves. We do a lot of research down in Wetzel County, okay? We got a grave down there. And one of the things with these mounds, you'll find a lot of Bigfoot around Indian mounds
Okay.
for some reason, okay, like they're protecting them. But we got a mound down there, it's like 4.5, 5 miles back. And it's clean all the time. It's about, say about this high off the
Who
ground.
cleans it?
We don't know. It's clean. If you go down there and there's snow on the ground, there's none on the mound. If you go down there, there's leaves all over the place, there's none on the mound. But one day, a tree fell on it, took the tree off of it. The next week we went down there and there was a hole with 14 feathers in it.
Is there
So who-
significance to 14 as opposed
Well,
to 12?
well, okay, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Okay, so we think it's Native American, because we're thinking it's Native American. The Native American says it's pagan. We said,
Pagan?
why would it be pagan? They said 4 and 1 is 5, 5-pointed star. They said the whole thing is pagan. But, talking to a couple psychics, the one psychic told us it's a meeting place. John, we got trail cams up all over the place down there. You have every animal, fierce animals that fight together, actually sitting on that mound, like they're friends. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, if you go down, say, 100 yards, because this is up on a hill, go down 100 yards, it's hot as hell. If you go up there, it's wind blowing. It's like 15-degree difference. And rattlesnakes protect it. They're all over the place.
Well, you
there.
said you ran into a
Yeah,
rattlesnake.
yeah, that's why I ran into them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, we got a picture of something. Again, there's a white light on the grave. It's a bright white glob. And there's actually a Bigfoot that you can see through on this picture.
Well, let's do this. Let's in the spring do an episode on this. Go out there.
I don't know if the people that found would want anybody to go out there.
Oh, I thought it was just in a park that anybody can
Well,
get
that's
to.
the reason we don't want nobody to know where it's at. If we start bringing people in there, then the park is going to say, "What are you guys doing back there?"
Okay. Well, just you and the camera guy?
Yeah, we could do,
Yeah.
maybe 3
And
of
then
them.
you could upload. I
Yeah.
don't need to go.
Yeah.
You could upload the film that you took
Yeah.
and stuff, and we'll do an episode on this
Yeah.
one. That's a good one.
It's interesting. I mean, you go out there and you look at it and it's clean all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't understand it.
Didn't you say the dirt was a different type of
You
soil?
got 3 different types of soil there.
That
and-
makes sense.
And a guy that's what do you call him, archaeologist guy, he told us to dig it. I'd be damned if I'm digging it.
No, I
I
wouldn't.
don't think I'd ever get out of there alive if I
Yeah,
did.
I wouldn't.
I mean,
Or you get something attached to you,
Yeah.
you know. But with the Native Americans, everything has a spirit interaction, either with relatives or people that were wronged, and then it comes back on
Yeah.
you because of that cycle. And there's a lot of Native American ghost stories, you know, and there are books out there with just simple ghost stories, you know. There's also UFO stories, and they called it Star People. And here's a book that talks about American Indian Star People stories. And I want to talk about this. These are the Navajo Rangers. Now, these guys have come forward.
Right.
They were Rangers,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And it was Lieutenant John Dover and Stan Milford. And they had UFO encounters. One was where this orb followed this woman. And when she got home, she saw a big rabbit, like in her driveway. And they went out and they checked the car for radiation, and it was giving off electromagnetic
Right.
radiation from the car. They had another case where there was this old guy out in the desert, and he lived alone. He saw a craft, he saw ETs, they came to his windows, and when he called the Rangers and they came out there, what they saw were these circular digs all around the house. The whole house had these circular digs with the dirt taken out. Here's a Navajo police report on a UFO that we just discussed over in Arizona. And they also did ghost investigations, these guys. We got to have them come talk at our conference.
Right,
you know, they
yeah.
live out in Arizona or maybe New Mexico. But they did investigations of ghosts and hauntings, and coins would fall from the ceiling. Remember when we did the one on the skull experiment? We said
Right.
things would just fall from the ceiling,
Right.
bullets, feathers, coins. Well, they had the same experience. And this was on Channel 5 News. You could see it there on the logo. You don't get a lot of them. There's one other one that comes forward and talks at conferences of a Native American, you know. So is this stuff real? Is it folklore? Or is all of this a form of witchcraft? You know, I'm telling you, you know, I was watching a lecture from a Christian, and he was talking about this. This is before I put this together, and it gave me the idea. He says that the downfall of the Native Americans, like a lot of the pagan societies and the Mayans and the Incas, was because it was a form of witchcraft, and they didn't know when they contacted the spirit of this, the spirit of air, fire, water, they didn't know what they were contacting. So although this is their culture, they were in contact really with demonic entities that destroyed their cultures, you know. So, and you could see an overlap of witchcraft in what they do, their chanting, their spells. I don't know enough about Native Americans to make a conclusion.
I wouldn't call it witchcraft with the Native Americans.
Yeah.
I would call it their religion.
Yeah.
I don't think it was witchcraft, I think it was a form of paganism.
Yeah.
And maybe something else, but it wasn't witchcraft.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think we're almost done. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to mention was, I moved to Oklahoma in 1989. And when I was in that house, there were 3 footsteps 3 times on the ceiling. And there was an Indian chant in the hallway. That's when all of my haunted activity started. And when I went to New Jersey, it just manifested and it followed me here. And when that first thing happened here, in my TV room there, my dog and I, it was boom on the wall. Both the dog and I turned and looked. This picture on the wall flipped up, and that's in another presentation that I do. And the Indian headdresses, you could see them blow to the side. And that's when it started to make me wonder, did I pick up something in Oklahoma? Is this native, is it linked to Native American? I mean, the room I have is not, it's not negative to Native American, it's just decorated with Indians and animals, you know? But I don't know if I picked something up in Oklahoma, and it's like the Poltergeist movie. I remember, I get the paper every day, I read when I was living there, the next subdivision, the houses were built on an Indian burial ground, the contractor knew it, he just built right over it. And I guess later on somebody came out and said, he didn't tell people, he didn't move the bones, etc. I mean, could it have been built?
No.
You know, I even one time with my girlfriend, we saw this kid in the room. He was about a 10-year-old, blonde hair, a bowl haircut, overalls, and a plaid shirt. You know, she saw him, I saw him, no, in New Jersey. You know, I think it followed us from Oklahoma to New Jersey. You know, I don't know. So I don't know if this stuff is Native American. I don't really know. And, you know, of course you got my books and stuff. But, so Fred, that's our episode on Native Americans. I think it was a cool one.
Yeah, very interesting.
I think it's a cool one. And we got to find out more about this. And then find a speaker, maybe out of upstate New York, so we don't have to fly them from New Mexico or Arizona. There's got to be somebody in upstate New York that we could bring down to speak at our conferences, you know? Okay, that's our episode, and we will talk to you next time. Thank you.